So here we are looking at a Versa glue shoe application. In this first bit of video, I'm cleaning up the hoof after we've removed the shoes. I'm using the fine side of the rasp to take off any excess glue that's still left on the hoof and any of the tabs that's still left on. So next I'm getting the hoof buffy, or well, this is the cheaper version. So it's just a drill with a sandpaper, I think it's 60 grit sandpaper on the drill, and we're just using that to sand over the top and make it a bit smoother, get rid of any really deep grooves. Because we're using super glue and not acrylic glue, it doesn't fill in gaps. Super glue wants a smoother finish, whereas an acrylic glue is going to fill in gaps, and it's going to be better if you have more grooves on the hoof. So we've been very careful. Her owner has introduced her to this tool first and made sure she's okay with it before we started using it. Probably enough, I reckon, because that kind of shows it. Yep. Ugh. So in this part we're trimming the very end tabs. Those ones are the ones that will go at the heel, so if we leave them on there too long and they would hit the skin or the coronet band. Then I'm using the blowtorch to just make sure there's no oils or anything on from my hands that have gone onto the tabs. Then we come over to the hoof and we use the blowtorch and the brush to thoroughly dry and clean the hoof. Because we used the buffy on this hoof, the step before this was to actually brush it off with a clean bit of material and get off any of the hoof dust, because we found that the brush wasn't enough to clean that properly. So we do this brush and torch step on repeat 3 times at least. If your hoof was wet, I would want to allow time for it to dry, so at least probably an hour standing in a dry area to let the hoof dry, and then you would do this hoof brush and torch step. So next, the step before, we've also put some hoof clay in her frogs, and we would treat any seedy toe before we put the shoe on. Next, I'm putting my glove on the hand that will hold the tabs. I'm going to place the shoe on the hoof. We already know this shoe fits because she's had the same size and the same setup. This is her 3rd reset, I think. And we place it on, make sure the placement is okay when it's on the ground, and then we can start gluing the tabs. So we're checking that it's not too far over the front, and we're just going to slide it back a tiny bit and then recheck, make sure it's not too far forward. We want enough shoe out the back that it's creating support for the bony column and for the heel. And I think we found that this shoe kept slipping a little bit, so we do had to readjust it a few times. You can stop the shoe slipping by putting some tape at the front or putting your tabs a little bit further around. So next we get our super glue and we start gluing. Now, a lot of the recommendations say that you should glue each tab and hold it for 20 seconds each, but we've found that this is not always necessary. So what we've been doing, and it's also awkward, is putting glue on each tab quickly, and then if there are tabs that's sticking out really far, we would hold it down a bit. But if it's fairly close to the hoof, we would glue and then get our plastic wrap on quite quickly. So we're just getting all the glue on, and then in a minute we'll get out that plastic wrap. You can also use, if your hoof isn't nice and flat like this one, if you've got a bit of a dish in it, I have found that like a masking, don't stick your fingers together. A masking tape, like any kind of tape that's a bit sticky, works better, but with a nice neat hoof like this one, the plastic wrap works well. You may need somebody to lift up the opposite hoof for you while you're gluing if your horse is moving around too much. So we do a couple of wraps of plastic and make sure all the tabs are sitting nice and flush. Just have a feel around and then let your horse put its foot down and wait. So after you've waited at least 10 minutes for your tabs to dry, you can take off your plastic wrap. So we're just cutting it off. Some of it might be a little bit stuck to your tabs, but we generally haven't found it to be too bad. Once the plastic is off, we just check all the tabs, make sure they're stuck properly, and we go around the outside with super glue to just seal all of the edges. You might have to go around and re-stick some of the tabs if they haven't stuck properly, and we did have this issue on one of the back shoes because she moved a little bit while we were trying to set the shoe and it slid forward, or the hoof slid forward in the shoe. So we just needed to take the shoe off, reset and re-stick the tabs. So here you can see we've finished all 3 feet with 1 foot still in plastic wrap that we had to redo, and we just left that one on and let her go in the paddock for a little while because she was a bit over having her feet done. And she's walking off, she's walking well, she's doing really well in these shoes, much more comfortable. The pea gravel surface was wearing too much heel off. So this is a very big process, but a very helpful one.